First off, I want to make it clear that this video and this giveaway is sponsored by the amazing AMP game server control panel. And that's exactly what we're going to be installing and setting up once we get this system built. And yet at the end of this very video, we're going to be giving away this whole thing, so stay tuned. First though, what is it we're actually doing here? In short, building a game server. This happens to be a £700 game server capable of hosting multiple sessions and games at once, be that for your friends, a Discord server, or even as a game hosting side hustle. AMP and this server, this hardware, can handle it. Speaking of the hardware, let's take a look and see what we're working with here. The PC part picker link will be in the description if you want to follow along, by the way. Starting with the heart of the build, the CPU, that is a Ryzen 7700X, an 8-core 16-thread chip that should offer plenty of performance to run any game server you want, and the fact that it has an iGPU built in works great for this build too, since servers like this don't need any GPU horsepower. That's being dropped into a Gigabyte B650 Eagle AX motherboard, which is one of the cheapest AM5 boards available. It still has all the mod cons that we'll need, like M.2 slots, 4 DDR5 DIMM slots, and plenty of PCIe expansion if you want to add stuff like storage or networking later down the line. As for cooling, I've opted for an Arctic Freezer 36, an exceptional value single tera cooler. RAM-wise, we've splashed out for 64 gigs of DDR5 5600 CL46 RAM, which is excellent for hosting. Plus it's only 2 sticks, so if you do want to double it later, you absolutely can. Using 4 sticks might mean you have more memory bandwidth available, which could give you a bit more performance, although I personally prefer the easier upgradability. Storage is a Silicon Power UD90 2TB M.2 Gen 4x4 drive. Again, to cut costs, you could opt for a 1TB drive instead, but at £91, this is a pretty great deal and means that you have more than enough storage to start off with. You can always add more drives in later if you need more. That is all being powered by a Be Quiet Pure Power 12 550W power supply. I picked this one in particular because it's 80 plus gold rated, meaning it's going to be basically as efficient as possible, which is important for a machine that's running 24/7. And finally, that is all getting housed in a Phanteks XT Pro mid-tower case. I have a soft spot for Phanteks cases, and I expect that this one is pretty nice to build in and good build quality too. And just for £55, that's a pretty great deal. So these are the parts, let's get to building. To start the build off, we want to build up the motherboard with everything that mounts directly to it, starting with the CPU. That's pretty simple, if very delicate. You lift the arm on the socket, lift the retention cover, then gently place the chip in the socket, aligning the gold triangle with the triangle on the socket. Pop the cover back down and the arm back and sort of clip the arm in, the built-in cover will pop off, and that's it, CPU in. The RAM is next. This is super easy. Just unclip the tabs at the top and bottom, specifically these 2 slots, farthest and second closest, and match the notch up with the notch in the slot, and then just press them in, making sure you hear the satisfying click on both sides. The SSD goes in the top slot along with the heatsink. So for the first time, you'll actually need a screwdriver here to take the heatsink off. And annoyingly, while the 2 open M.2 slots under the PCIe slot are toolless, this heatsinked one isn't. So you will need to find the tiny screw from the motherboard box to slide the drive in, push it down, and then put that tiny screw in. Then you can take the protective sticker off of the thermal pad on the heatsink and put that back down, and using the captive screw to tie it down. Lastly, for the board itself, the CPU cooler. This one needs a screwdriver too, as you'll need to remove the stock cooler mounting screws, although you'll probably want to keep the mounting or hardware handy in future, and instead attach the AM5 mounting arms from the cooler's sort of pack with the plastic spacers. Then you can apply a bead of thermal paste onto the CPU and remove the protective film from the bottom of the cooler. I can't stress this enough, please remove this. Don't become another meme on Reddit. Then place it down, screwing in the 2 captive and spring-loaded screws on the sides. We're going to install the fans once it's in the case, as otherwise you would struggle to get a couple of the motherboard screws in. Now onto the case itself. You want to remove both side panels, also the built-in screws or the accessories pack that's in the bottom hard drive cage. You want to pull that out. And then I like to install the power supply first. This one doesn't have any modular cables, so we don't need to do much besides just slide it in, fan side down, and install the 4 screws in the back. I also like to pre-run some of the more awkward and annoying cables, especially the 8-pin CPU power connector in the top left-hand corner and the chunky 24-pin in the middle right. Then we can install the motherboard. Fantex cases almost always come with 2 of these standoffs in the middle with the little sort of tips on them that basically mean the board clips into place in the right position, which makes it way easier to install all 9 screws. It's such a little detail, but it makes a massive difference to the build experience. It's amazing. Once those screws are in, it's time for the cables. The 8-pin up the top left, the 24-pin middle right, the USB front panel header just below that, the front panel controls down at the bottom right, and the HD audio header on the bottom left. You will also want to plug in the included rear fan somewhere, probably one of the top 3 headers, although not the middle one as that's the CPU fan header. Finally, the actual CPU coolers fans. These are possibly the easiest fans to install ever because Arctic has thought of something amazing here. The screws are pre-installed in the fans and they have little holders built into the heatsink, meaning you just clip the fans on and that's it. How cool is that? And then it's just a case of connecting the fans to the CPU fan header, and the fans themselves actually have sort of daisy chain connectors on them, so you only need 1 header for both fans, which is even better. And yeah, once the side panels go back on, that's it built. When it comes to server operating systems, Linux, and Debian specifically, seems like the most logical choice. With the latest version of Debian on my Ventoy USB stick, we boot the system with the stick inserted. Hit F1 to get into the BIOS, and first I'm actually going to update the BIOS. AMD and the motherboard vendors or makers have put a lot of work into keeping these boards updated for years after they launched. And there's actually 2 years of BIOS updates potentially waiting for this board. Realistically, since we bought it so recently, it's much more likely to have a more recent BIOS version on it already, but it's always worth checking and updating to get the best security and performance possible. Once the update is done, we can head back into the BIOS with the delete key to enable XMP so that our RAM runs at the right speed, and then boot from the USB stick. You pick Debian from the list, and then since we don't need the full, version of the GUI version of Debian installed, you'll want to pick the regular non-graphical install option, set up your drive, and then when it asks you what packages you want to disable GNOME or GNOME and enable the SSH server and finish the install. Once it's installed and connected to your network, you can then SSH into it from another machine. And now it's time for AMP. AMP is a frankly amazing bit of software for a number of reasons. First of which is that it's a full game server management tool that lets you really simply and easily create game servers for anyone from your friends to paying customers to enjoy. Second is the customizability, both for things like themes, plugins, and add-ons, but also things like a graphical settings editor so you don't have to search around text files to configure your servers, although if you do need to manage files, the file manager and SFTP support is ready and waiting. AMP is also extremely good value. The standard edition is just £7.50 or $10 for a lifetime license, or if you need a little more, then it's just £30 or around $40 for the advanced edition, which even includes extras like analytics and single sign-on support. If you want to essentially resell AMP to your own customers, say you're an online hosting provider and you want to be able to offer game server hosting as an easy-to-use optional extra, there is also an Enterprise Edition available with features like automated deployment APIs and billing integration waiting for you too. As for installing AMP on Debian, it's super easy. Just head to the AMP website and copy the install command. For my version of Debian 13.1, I had to run apt install curl to install curl first, and then I could run the script. It will ask you to create a username and password for your AMP admin account, then a few options like using Docker, which is recommended, and creating an SSL certificate from Let's Encrypt by tying your domain name to the server. I've got a domain name that I've used here, but if you're running this from home, you'll either need a static home IP address and a URL pointing to that IP, or if you have a dynamic IP address, you'll need a dynamic DNS service like DuckDNS. To be able to access the server from outside your network, you will need to port forward both port 80 and port 443 on your router, and with that done, the installer will automatically install everything you need and start running AMP in the background. Head to your domain name, or if you've set it up locally for now, your local IP address and port 8080, and then sign into AMP. This is where you'll want to include your license key, then that's it. You're in. Setting up a game server is basically 3 clicks. Click the Create Instance button, pick the game that you want to set up. There are loads here. Basically anything you think of is here. In my case, that's Satisfactory, and then hit Create Instance. It will take a minute to download the required files and get the instance up and running, but then that's it, ready to go. You can configure the settings like the max number of players, disable the seasonal events, and even auto-pause the server when there are no players connected or not. You can also add your own server branding if you want to, or even cooler is setting up scheduled events. I set up one so that when an update to the game is available via Steam CMD, it will automatically update and restart the instance. You might want to do that on a timed schedule instead of whenever the update is instantly available, but there are lots of options here. Or in other words, it's very powerful. Right, let's jump on that server. And yeah, we're now in that game. We've created a game on the server and we are doing the basics. We are right at the start, obviously. We have the hub down and nothing else. I've started in the sort of 3rd region, I can't remember what it's called, but the slightly harder region because I have played Satisfactory quite a lot and I'm totally not addicted to it. But the fact that I'm playing this on a PC that's just over there is definitely kind of cool, especially because then the server keeps running, which is a nice little sort of thing for your friends to pop in and out of, or if you have paying customers, for them to pop in and out of instead. Actually, can I make biomass at this point, or do I need to unlock that later? It has been a little while since I've played from the beginning, and so my memory for what you can and can't make immediately, a little limited. What I can tell you is that the start of Satisfactory is very much just leaf collecting, hand mining iron and or limestone, a bit of copper, and equipping your tool so that you can zap the rather angry folk. There we go. Save that for later. And actually, while I'm busy putting some portable miners down, do I need to put these in my hands? Is that? Yeah. Again, it's been a while since I've played from the start. What I can say is that the server itself is handling this rather well. as expected, running just like a single game instance off of what is otherwise a pretty beefy server really isn't a big deal for it. I'm looking at the, in fact, let me start crafting. I'm looking at the stats and we're using just 2% of the CPU and 4 gigabytes of the RAM. Even looking at from HTOP, there is only 5.5 gigabytes of RAM usage total. So this thing can handle like a whole bunch of instances all at once. It's always so disorganized when you're starting off as well. I'm not that great at making it more organized later, but it gets at least a little bit more organized. There is a little bit of trouble. I literally just punched that one, damn. So we're just starting on the basic productions. If you haven't played Satisfactory, it's a very, very fun and very addictive game. But basically you have a load of ores and minerals that you need to extract with miners. For some of those ores, like iron, copper, and later things like steel, you need to smelt them down, or in steel's case, you need a foundry to take the iron and coal together. Although for things like this limestone, to turn it into concrete, you need a constructor. Concrete production is incredibly slow in this, and it's kind of a game about balancing the sort of loads as well, both on like straight power loads and also the like production loads. So you look at, for example, if you look at this miner, this is producing 60 limestone per minute. If we go to the constructor, this requires 45 per minute. So there's actually going to be a surplus in the miner itself. However, you could, once we unlock them, split this off and put 2 constructors. However, they will then both regularly run dry, which is a really annoying thing to have happen. I'm just going to hook up both sides of our power so we actually have enough power going along. And it's already a huge mess, but there we go. So we are now producing some concrete, although have we blown the network already? Yes. Okay, we're good. Right, back online. So we are now producing some concrete. If I just drop all the raw stuff I have in there. We should also be producing some iron ingots and some copper ingots. And what we're gonna do is put a constructor down, give it some power, so we can produce some, let's start with some iron plates. There we go. While we're busy crafting, I was just checking the metrics, and the most CPU we've used is 10% for brief fleeting seconds. So again, you can definitely run a whole bunch of instances off of this machine with no problems. And even just from like consumer hardware, that's pretty sweet. And the fact that it's such an easy thing to set up as well, I'm just really impressed. And actually, as of just after filming this, there is a big update coming to AMP that will be live by the time you see this video. And it's really cool, a whole bunch of new features, but the coolest one for me is that there is essentially Elgato Stream Deck compatibility. So if you have games that support settings you can control from AMP, so you know, changing the weather in game, you know, starting specific modes or like seasonal events, all that sort of stuff, all of that stuff can be controlled from a Stream Deck. So you can be like busy playing a game and then you want to switch things up, put some rainy weather on, you just press your Stream Deck. That's pretty cool. How are we doing on concrete? Not great. As I said earlier, concrete is a very slow producer. Apparently, so is wire. So again, with the whole balancing thing, this requires 15 per minute of copper ingots, while the smelter is currently producing 30. So we could actually have two separate smelters running at full efficiency, and then even the smelter only takes 30 per minute, while I think this is offering us 120 copper ore per minute. So we can have, what, 4 smelters connected to this one miner, this one Mark 1 miner, and be running at full efficiency. But I don't have those unlocked yet, so let's go see what the targets are for unlocking the splitters, because that would be great. And it is 150 of each iron and 300 for the wire. Yeah, let's do it. I probably shouldn't have put all my iron plate in there, but I'll go get some more. There we go. And we get to push the big red button. Let's go! So we now have access to splitters.
Conveyor belts can now merge, split, and lift to save space and enhance the productivity of your factory.
As much as I desperately want to sit here for hours and play this, my camera battery says no, so we're gonna leave the gaming portion here. I am really impressed with how this performs and handles, and the fact that this will keep running in the background and you can have people connect to it from anywhere you want. The default server limit is 4 people, but I'm sure you could up that if you want more chaos. All of that is amazing. The fact that it's so easy to set up is also incredible. And so yeah, that is satisfactory on a dedicated server that we built and set up. So that's how to build an incredibly capable game server and get servers up and running with AMP. And thanks to AMP's makers, CubeCoders, I now get to give this system away. Now, because shipping an entire PC is expensive and frankly dangerous affair for internationally, this is limited to the UK, but if you are in the UK, leave a comment with #AmpServer and what games you would like to host with this thing, and we'll pick a random winner in 2 weeks. Keep an eye on my Discord, link in the description for the winner announcement. That'll be in the general channel at 8 PM UK time on the 3rd of October. Once again, I want to thank CubeCoders for sponsoring this video and this giveaway. So if you want to host your own game servers, check them out at the link in the description below. It's incredibly affordable and amazingly well featured, and damn, it's easy to use. You can literally deploy servers with 3 clicks. Anyway, check them out in the link in the description and maybe give their YouTube channel a subscribe while you're at it. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for this channel too if you want to check out more videos. There are plenty more on the end cards for you to take a look at. And otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you all in the next video.